Hi guys, we're at Cool Clubs on the Gold Coast today, and we have Josh Stewart here who works at Cool Clubs also. We're going to be doing some testing from our normal studio facility off the mat and then on the grass, and we're going to compare the data and the performance off the grass and the mat for Josh. And he's just going to run you through the product that he's been using, and we're going to use that today for the whole process.
So currently using the P760, just my current 6-iron with the DG X100 cured. And then so really important to talk about the turf interaction versus mat, because there is a fair bit of shape in the sole on this particular club, so it should have some effect from grass to mat.
Okay, cool. So we've already done the testing with the data behind us. We're going to talk you through. It was very interesting for Josh, especially with his comments about what he feels that happens on the golf course versus hitting balls out of a studio. So we'll highlight the key areas that have changed, and then I'll get Josh to explain how he feels that actually relates to his performance on the golf course. So as you can see from here, dispersion was actually pretty similar. The white circle is off the grass section. Club head speeds are very much the same. Ball speed is identical actually for the groups of shots. So we hit 10 shots with each, and then we just did analysis on the differences that occurred between the grass area and the mat area. So for Josh especially, over here, his attack angle all of a sudden was much steeper off the grass. So the key components that changed with his ball flight were a slightly lower launch condition but with more spin off the grass surface, which means comparatively they're not actually the same, which is exactly the reason why we'll test off a controlled environment surface on a mat, and then we also do confirmation on grass surface downstairs for turf interaction and to see if the ball flight changes somewhat with the player's reaction. So the carry distance and total distance is very similar. Overall, the path and face numbers, if you're into your TrackMan data, Josh is doing a really good job today. So he's within 1 degree of the zero path number. Interestingly enough, with the face angle on the iron off the grass, it was slightly more closed, only half a degree, but he'll explain to you why he feels that is in a moment. But this is just from a data point of view, the little changes we see. And slightly tighter dispersion overall off the grass. I think that's just to do with turf interaction, and it seems like the grass is more beneficial for Josh, especially if he's testing or practicing, because he doesn't have to manipulate the golf club through impact off the normal artificial surface that we have. So I don't think he expected to see nearly a 12.5% increase in spin and a lower launch, but it was very interesting. Correct?
Yeah, definitely.
So, and then I just had a conversation with Josh about the changes and then what he actually feels was going on. So, what do you reckon? What do you think you see?
Yeah, well, definitely when you look at the angle of attack. So, for me, I feel like when I'm on the mats, I tend to try to pick the ball off a little bit more. I don't feel like I can kind of trap the golf ball as much. And in really any head, even testing blades on the mats, I still feel like they jump up on me just with the mat being that way, versus as soon as I get down on the grass, straight away when a couple of degrees further down might be why I shut the face down a little more. I kind of can feel like I can get down and trap the golf ball a little bit more, and for me that's a good feeling because I feel like I can control the golf ball a lot more. It also had a bit of an effect here as well on, as it would, having the higher launch with low spin, getting a much higher land angle off the mat than it was off the grass, so nearly just over 4 degrees difference. So coming in a little flatter with off the grass, which I actually don't really mind because I feel like I can hit it quite high. I try to control it in a little lower, so I quite like that's a little lower than optimal off the grass, because I feel like that's me putting a bit of control in using the ground a little bit more to help it.
Yeah, so and then that attack angle and loft relationship is a direct link to the lower launch characteristic that you see. So as Josh hits down on the golf ball a little bit more with similar face angle situation, then he's going to produce a lower launch because he prefers to, like what he just said, he's going to trap the ball into the surface a lot more. That's how he prefers to play. So testing up here on the mat surface is more of initially just a guide to understand in a controlled environment how the products will be different. But then that's a pretty big eye opener for you today, hey?
Yeah,
So
definitely.
you can do initial testing up here and the majority of the testing down on the grass, because every player is very different how they react to those surfaces, and that's why we test both. Okay,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, it definitely makes sense to why we do test out on the grass with all of the irons and wedges, because that's really it can change the performance. And I have seen several fittings where we've had a couple of good options off the mat, and we get out into the grass and things change so drastically with the player that all of a sudden the best option becomes a terrible option, because the sole grind and because they've been maybe picking it off there or changing the angle of attack has really affected what's happening on the grass now as well. So all of a sudden you have to rethink the fitting and go back a step and try option B and option C, because they're drastically better as soon as you're on the grass.
absolutely, yeah. So that's why we test in both different environments, see how players react to different conditions or even different surfaces. People talk about this a hell of a lot, actually. So that's why we use real golf balls, using Pro V1s in all our fittings. And we are lucky enough that we have both environments that we can test from. So you don't see just a one-dimensional product or one-dimensional performance. We can test everything. Super important. So, all right, good job.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
See
you.
you later.
Cheers.